Coming on the celebration of the closure of Willowbrook, which is probably the most notorious example of institutions, and it was New York, so it was really big, and all kinds of things. But what went on in lots of places across the country is mirrored with what we dealt with, and there were sad stories from everywhere. But in the, we're now in 2022, and the anniversary is upon us. But back in the 70s, we also had lawsuits that worked on this. But the closure of institutions in Michigan, which we accomplished the closure of our last ICFMR in 2009. ICMR is no longer a term, but IDD, I guess now, intermediate care facilities. But we closed our institutions by then, and the substitutes, which were 6-bed mini institutions around the state, we shut those as well by that date. And we celebrated that. We had a Freedom Fighters Day and celebrated it. But what it took to get to that point, we started with some 14 institutions in Michigan. And in the beginning, institutions in Michigan were based more on what your disability was than where you came from or where you were located. So we had residual facilities that had people who also had cerebral palsy, or who were very low functioning, or were children, and so on and so forth, or had complex medical needs. And so those institutions were varied. We changed to a kind of a catchment area, and so relatives could visit once we thought that was a good idea. In the beginning, relatives were told things like, maybe you should put your child here, and then for the rest of your family should forget that this is ever part of your family. It'd be healthier for you, your family, et cetera, if you did that. Later, we moved to saying, once you place your child there, you probably shouldn't visit for a year. So they get to know that that's where they live, that they don't live with you anymore. It got slightly better, and finally they did switch to catchment areas, so people were placed certain places based on where you came from. They didn't move people around much, but the new people who came were basically from your area. So going after our institutions took on a different tone. We'd already closed one by the time the lawsuit happened, by the time I was asked to intervene.